Hello, hi, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, I need the correct pronunciation. Is it Taqa or is it Taqa? Tell us more about what inspired the start of this wonderful initiative, and you targeting and wanting to assist the young child.
Sure. Thank you for the question. It's Taqa. So it's
Taqa,
the letter, yes,
right?
Taqa. And I guess to be brief, to summarize why we started it, I think it's a passion for access to quality education,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that South Africa has a deep crisis in terms of reading in South Africa, both from the perspective of, the ability to read, that as you stated, some of the latest studies suggest that over 70% of grade four learners can't read for meaning at grade level. Similarly, though, there's a crisis in terms of the availability of books in African home languages. Also knowing that PASA's report suggests that less than 2% of commercially published children's books are in African home languages. So Wataka, we wanted to really make a dent and change this by one, breaking barriers to access to literature using technology,
Mm-hmm.
and making books cheaply available online, but two, making those books available in 11 official South African languages, and lastly, making them exciting and engaging, for children to use, so that they can read at home before school, but also so that it can supplement the learning happening in schools and classrooms by what you do at home after school and perhaps in your reading hour in class.
Qhawe, let's talk about combining the text, the audio, and the illustrations, making reading more engaging. How effective has this been on the children?
Sure. I think what we can clearly see, one, is that it's a very exciting form of storytelling. In that, the digital economy right now, children are watching Mrs. Rachel, they're watching Coco Melon, and a lot of really exciting things. So sometimes it's hard when you present something that can't integrate into that community or into that existing ecosystem, but still require the work of reading, where it's not a fully passive experience. A child can still, yes, you can see the illustration, but it's not moving. You can see the words and you can hear, and in this way, one, the story is exciting, but two, it actually helps children learn how to read. I think perhaps the second really key effect is that a lot of parents don't read to their children, not because they don't want to, but because of confidence, in their own ability to read. And so when
Hmm.
you're a nervous reader, you don't read to your child. So the other bit where we're really effective is helping parents who might not have the confidence to read to a child themselves, but can still present the story with a narrator to the child, and they can still enjoy Ibali as well as the educational value of that story.
There is so much value in the work that you are doing at Taqa. And I think also so beautiful that we're having this conversation with you, Qhawe, as we observe International Literacy Day. In fact, that was observed yesterday, as
Mm.
proclaimed by UNESCO in 66. But also, just for proximity, South Africa is also observing National Book Week, which, as I understand it, is between the 2nd and the 11th of September on an annual basis. So let's talk about, using this time to talk about literacy, to talk about the work that you do, access to books, using literacy and the art of ukfunda to create community. Yes, perhaps I'm a parent that's not so confident, and you mentioned something so important. Maybe I
Mm.
don't know how to read with confidence, or how to read a storybook and bring the characters alive. For example, if it's going to be a fictional read for a 6-year old or for a 3-year old, how can literacy be used to grow community and to get other people that can do this work to form reading circles? Back the way we used to do it, like when we had Umbaula back in the day. How can we do that now?
Mm. Sure. I mean, a quick answer that's somewhat already in practice, but I think we need to tap into so much deeply, and perhaps some of these virtual platforms also make that easier. Is book clubs. Is that there's a
Mm.
lot of book clubs in South Africa, and it's an age old thing, but it really does form community, and people have an opportunity, and perhaps the best way to consume stories, in that, you have an opportunity to come together with your community. You can then tell a story that people can engage in and relate with, and then have a full discussion about that story. I think one of the things that stories do really well in terms of helping us build connection is that, I mean, most of the time, sometimes you can see someone you directly relate in a story, but oftentimes it's a story that, you relate in from a human perspective, but that person isn't exactly like you. And I think it helps build empathy, in that you get to empathize with a character, without sometimes some of the personal dynamics or personal feelings. So I think it helps us also empathize with other people, and enjoy a single thing together that we can enjoy. And I guess the last thing, similar to what you said, is storytelling is an age old thing, that people have been practicing for centuries and still do. And I think amongst the beauties of a story is to retell a story. So I think you can listen to a Taqa audio book or a Taqa video book and really enjoy that, but go and retell it to someone else. And I know sometimes we're afraid of broken telephone and you don't get a story exactly right. But I think that's part of the beauty of it, that when you retell a story, it often takes on a little bit of your personality too, and will have a little bit of your personal jazz
Yes. Yeah.
on the story. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Taqa Africa. It's 10 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African time. We continue the conversation about this platform, storytelling startup producing children's video books in all 11 South African official languages. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buda, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. They talk about what Africans say about Africa.
With 81% of South Africa's grade 4 learners not being able to read for meaning, platforms like Taqa Africa, storytelling startup producing children's video books in all 11 of South Africa's official languages, is allowing us to bridge that gap and reduce that number. On the line, we are joined by Qhawe Bula, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Taqa Africa. Let's talk about access, Qhawe, because a lot of digital solutions are often criticized for being out of reach for many, in rural communities. How is Taqa ensuring that that is not the case with your platform?
Sure. I think let me give two responses to this. The first will answer directly, and another kind of offers an alternative viewpoint. So I think one, while it's true that there's a difficulty of connectivity in South Africa and a difficulty of devices, smartphones do have a pretty strong penetration in the country of South Africa. And so what we've done, Taqa, is to make books available not only, say from a laptop or a tablet, but even just if you have any kind of smartphone, you are able to access the story. I think the second bit still on this is, you can work with various kinds of telecommunications companies to make books data free or cheap, or low data usage. So for example, we run a channel on the Ayoba messaging app where we release all of our audiobooks, and all of those books, you can listen to for free or without data if you're an MTN user. So there's a number of strategies we employ here. But I think the last thing to say is the world is moving forward, and there's an extent to which we need to build with that in mind, right? So when we're building solutions to help capacitate schools, it's important that even while we're trying to plug very real and painful existing gaps, that we build in a way that's also future forward. So I think it's quite important that, while we're plugging those gaps, we are building means that, equip children for the digital world, such that they are able to use these, these devices and are able to gain some of the advantages that will be necessary later in their educational journey. So one, it's to say there are gaps and there's ways in which we look to tackle that. But two, I think even with those existing, it's quite important that with the solutions we build, yes, we look to plug all of these existing gaps, but we still build in a way that's future forward and that's hoping to equip children for the world of today.
Future forward, but also I think it's so admirable through this work that the fact that you have diversified in language, in this manner, means that you want to reflect and you're intentional about reflecting South Africa's cultural and heritage diversity. So with that said, let's talk about just some of the advantages of and importance actually of being able to read in a familiar language in your mother tongue. What does that do for comprehension and cognitive development?
It's absolutely critical. Research from educationalists, from linguists, has long suggested that children learn best in their own home languages. That's part of the reason that, although apartheid is to be regretted holistically, but that's one of the reasons that the education system for Afrikaners has been so strong. It's because in the 60s, the apartheid government, particularly for Afrikaner children, built a system that allowed them to learn within their home languages. And we know that when it comes to learning, a learning program that teaches you to read in your home language can produce a functionally literate reader in 3 years versus, a second language program, which would then take up to 5 years. So it's really important from the level of comprehension. I think it's important that everything you learn in class is reinforced by your everyday environment. And it's important that when we're teaching you, we're making use of your existing linguistic resources. So when we abandon your context and we abandon your existing linguistic resources and bring you something that's completely foreign, it elongs the process of you reading. It makes it harder and leaves you behind, frankly. It ensures children remain disadvantaged, or Black children remain disadvantaged by being unable to read in their own home languages. And the second bit is just what you said, that it's so important that we keep our languages alive, and languages die when they aren't used.
Yeah.
They die when we don't practice them. And we sometimes take for granted, but in the reality, over 40% of the world's languages are endangered. And if we don't take active steps to use our languages, to keep them alive, and we understand that the importance is not just as a communication tool, it's as a worldview, it's as identity, it's as our history and who we are, we'll lose those languages. So it's really important from that perspective as well.
Taqa, is it available for free? Do we pay a subscription for it? Is it accessible only in specific areas? Tell us about access.
Sure, Dank. So we do have some stuff that is available for free. So if you go to the Ayoba messaging app, or you go to SoundCloud or Spotify or various other platforms, you can access Taqa audiobooks for free. What is on a pay gate is our video books, and these live only on the Taqa web app. And for these, though, we are still much cheaper than the average price for a children's book, and that you can buy a Taqa video book for 120 rands on the Taqa web app, which is www.taqa.africa. But beyond that, you can also access our audiobooks on SoundCloud, on Spotify, and a number of streaming platforms.
It sounds very exciting, and I think you mentioned the affordability of the product online. For those that do have access, that are listening to our program, and if you happen to catch this broadcast whenever you're going to catch it, because we're going to share the YouTube video with you online, is you can give the gift of reading. It can be a gift. I can buy the book for 120 and gift it to a child in Onu, gift it to a child in Khayelitsha, gift it to a child in Soweto, gifted to a child anyway in Khomo, in whatever, in Kanana, in Rustenburg. So the gift is there in 11 official languages, and I think it's remarkable. Qhawe, all the best, man. I think you have a solid plan, sir, and it is wonderful to see that literacy is definitely in good hands, and the way you present this work really is just so beautiful. Also very, very important. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Nyabulela, and have a good Tuesday.
Siyabulela nakuwe. Please just remind us of the website again if we do want to check out the variety of books you've got.
Yes, it is www.taqa.africa. You can also find us as Taqa Africa on all of the social media platforms.
All right. Qhawe Bula, CEO and co-founder of Taqa Africa. Hey, there I was, TAQA. Taqa. Kaloku.
TAQA.
Because it looked like an abbreviation for something.
Don't we have something similar in the South African educational space? Isn't it the SAQA?
Yeah, but that's,
what do you call that?
That's
one?
where I was stuck. I don't know. But listen, this is a wonderful
what
find.
a brilliant initiative
Yes.
this is. Eh?
Yeah.
A brilliant initiative.
Totally.
I love the advocacy for learning and reading and studying in your own home language. I was, and not to shade anyone, I was this weekend saw parents, black family, and the kids were just talking English the whole time. English. But the parents were talking Setswana. But the kids were speaking English the whole time. English. So it's very important to ensure that we raise them with confidence in their own home languages and expose them to literature that further enhances and develops that confidence. It's 3 p.m. Central African time. Let's get the latest news. Jolani Tulungwepe is standing by.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Tebogo. Top stories. The Sawa ICC begin hearings to finalize charges against fugitive